The warning lights flashed red across the control room of Station Omega 7. Lieutenant Commander Vexton stared at his screen with confusion. The numbers did not make sense. Something big was coming toward Imperial space, but the readings were wrong. They had to be wrong. "Sir, you need to see this," Vexton called to his superior officer. Admiral Zethkar walked over to the monitoring station. His forearms moved in an annoyed gesture. The Admiral was a Cathari, one of the Empire's most respected warrior races. He had fought in dozens of battles and conquered many worlds. Nothing should surprise him anymore. "What is the problem, Lieutenant Commander?" Zethkar asked. "The sensors are picking up something massive, sir. It just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our territory. But the energy readings are impossible." Admiral Zethkar looked at the display. The object was indeed large, much larger than any ship in the Imperial database. The energy signature showed power levels that rivaled a small star. "This could not be right. Run a full diagnostic on the sensor array," the Admiral ordered. "These readings are clearly malfunctioned." "Sir, I already ran 3 diagnostics. The equipment is working perfectly. Whatever is out there, it is really that big and really that powerful." The Admiral's mandibles clicked together in thought. In his 200 years of service to the Empire, he had never seen anything like this. The Galactic Empire controlled most of the known galaxy. They had cataloged every species, every planet, every civilization capable of space travel. Nothing this advanced should exist without their knowledge. "Can you identify the ship design? Does it match any known species in our database?" Vexton worked at his console for several minutes. "No matches, sir. The hull composition is unknown. The engine design is completely foreign. Even the basic shape does not match anything we have on record." "What about the location it came from? Can you trace its trajectory?" "Yes, sir. The ship came from a region near what we call the Sol system. That area was surveyed 50 years ago. The report showed only primitive life forms on the 3rd planet. They had not even achieved basic spaceflight at the time." Admiral Zethkar felt a chill run through his body. The Sol system was home to creatures called humans. According to Imperial records, they were barely intelligent bipeds who had only recently discovered how to make fire. The idea that they could build something like this was absurd. "Perhaps it is not from the Sol system," the Admiral suggested. "Maybe the trajectory readings are wrong too." "Sir, the ship is broadcasting identification codes." "What kind of codes?" "They claim to be from something called Earth. They are requesting safe passage through Imperial space to reach what they call the Centauri colonies." The Admiral's 3 hearts almost stopped beating. Earth was the name humans used for their home planet. But how could primitive creatures who barely knew about space travel have colonies in other star systems? "And what was this massive ship doing in Imperial territory?" "Sir, what are your orders?" Vexton asked. Admiral Zethkar tried to think clearly. This situation made no sense, but he had to follow protocol. When unknown vessels entered Imperial space, the standard procedure was to send a patrol fleet to investigate. Usually 3 dreadnoughts were more than enough to handle any threat. "Contact the 3rd Fleet. Tell Admiral Corvin to take 3 dreadnoughts and investigate this unknown vessel. Standard first contact protocol. If they refuse to comply with our authority, they are to be destroyed." "Yes, sir." "Should I inform the Galactic Council about this situation?" "Not yet. Let us see what Admiral Corvin discovers first. This is probably just some lost exploration vessel from an unknown species. Once we make contact, we can determine their technology level and decide whether they are worth conquering or simply ignoring." 3 hours later, Admiral Corvin's fleet arrived at the coordinates. The 3 Imperial dreadnoughts were impressive vessels. Each one was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They represented the best military technology in the galaxy. Admiral Corvin opened a communication channel with Station Omega 7. "Admiral Zethkar, we have visual contact with the unknown vessel." "You need to see this." The main screen in the control room flickered to life. What Admiral Zethkar saw made him question his own sanity. The human ship was enormous. It dwarfed the 3 Imperial dreadnoughts like a whale next to minnows. The vessel was sleek and dark, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange energy patterns danced along its surface. "By the ancient gods," Admiral Zethkar whispered. "How is this possible?" "Sir, detailed scans show that this ship is nearly 50 kilometers long. Its mass is equivalent to a small asteroid. The energy readings indicate power systems we do not understand." The weapons arrays are completely unknown to Imperial science. Admiral Zethkar felt his confidence crumbling. The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered thousands of worlds and dozens of species. They possessed the most advanced technology known to exist. How could some primitive species from a backwater planet build something that made Imperial dreadnoughts look like toys? Have they responded to our hails? Admiral Zethkar asked. Yes, sir. A voice claiming to be Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiance has requested to speak with our commanding officer. She sounds remarkably calm for someone facing 3 Imperial warships. Put her through to my station. The screen changed to show a human female. She appeared young by human standards, with short dark hair and eyes that showed intelligence and confidence. She wore a uniform that looked both practical and military. Greetings, Captain Chen said in accented but clear galactic standard. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. May I ask why Imperial vessels are blocking our established trade route? Admiral Zethkar was speechless. Trade route? Established? These words implied that humans had been traveling through this region of space regularly. But that was impossible according to all Imperial records. I am Admiral Zethkar of the Imperial Third Fleet. Your vessel has entered Imperial territory without permission. State your intentions and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Captain Chen smiled politely. I apologize for any confusion, Admiral. This trade route has been in use by human colonial authority vessels for over 50 years. We have never encountered Imperial ships in this region before. Perhaps there has been some miscommunication about territorial boundaries. The Admiral felt reality shifting around him. Human colonial authority? Trade routes in use for 50 years? This conversation was revealing information that contradicted everything the Empire knew about humanity. Captain Chen, according to our records, your species achieved basic spaceflight only decades ago. How do you explain the existence of this vessel and these claimed colonies? Captain Chen looked puzzled. I am not sure what records you are referring to, Admiral. Humanity has been an interstellar civilization for over 2 centuries. We have colonies in dozens of star systems and maintain regular trade with several species in this region of the galaxy. Admiral Zethkar realized he was facing something unprecedented. Either this human was lying, or the Empire's information about humanity was completely wrong. Neither possibility was comfortable to consider. The most terrifying thought was just beginning to form in his mind. If humans could build ships like this, and if they had been expanding through space for centuries without Imperial knowledge, what else might be happening in the galaxy that the Empire did not know about? Admiral Zethkar paced back and forth in his command center. The conversation with Captain Chen had ended an hour ago, but the implications were still sinking in. He had immediately ordered his best science officers to run every possible scan on the human vessel. The results were disturbing. Sir, the detailed analysis is complete, reported Chief Science Officer Talnari. She was a brilliant Vorthon with a mind like a computer. If anyone could make sense of this situation, it would be her. What did you find? The human ship operates on principles that should not exist, sir. Their defensive shields use some form of manipulated space-time. Their weapons appear to channel pure energy in ways our physics cannot explain. The hull material is not metal, ceramic, or any composite we recognize. Admiral Zethkar felt a headache forming behind his eyes. Are you telling me their technology is more advanced than ours? In some areas, yes, sir. Significantly more advanced. Their power generation alone exceeds anything in the Imperial fleet by a factor of 10. The ship carries enough firepower to destroy our entire Third Fleet without sustaining damage. The Admiral sat down heavily in his command chair. This news was impossible to accept, but the evidence was undeniable. Somehow the primitive humans had surpassed Imperial technology. Contact the Department of Xenobiology on the homeworld. I need to speak with someone who knows about human development. 20 minutes later, a hologram appeared showing Dr. Kevlar, the Empire's leading expert on primitive species. The elderly Kethari looked annoyed at being disturbed. Admiral Zethkar, what is so urgent that it requires immediate consultation? Doctor, I need information about the species called humans from the Sol system. Everything we know about their technological development. Humans? Why would you need information about them? They are barely sentient. Last survey showed they had only recently developed basic agriculture. They spend most of their time fighting each other over territory and resources. Admiral Zethkar felt his confusion growing. When was this survey conducted? 52 years ago. Standard procedure for primitive worlds. We check on them every century or so to see if they are worth conquering yet. The humans were nowhere near space travel. They had not even discovered electricity. Doctor, I am looking at a human battleship that is 50 kilometers long and more powerful than anything in the Imperial fleet. Dr. Kevlar laughed. Admiral, that is impossible. You must be mistaken. Perhaps you encountered some other species using human identification codes as a deception. The woman I spoke with was definitely human. She matched all the biological characteristics in our database. She spoke about human colonies and trade routes as if they were common knowledge. The laughter died on Dr. Kevlar's face. Admiral, what you are describing is scientifically impossible. No species advances from primitive agriculture to interstellar civilization in 50 years. It violates every known model of technological development. Admiral Zethkar was beginning to understand that he was dealing with something beyond normal experience. Either the Empire's information was completely wrong, or something very strange was happening with humanity. Doctor, could our survey have been wrong? Could humans have been hiding their true capabilities? Absolutely not. We used deep penetration scans. We detected every electromagnetic emission on their planet. We cataloged their technology level down to the smallest detail. There were no hidden cities, no advanced machinery, no signs of space travel capability. While Admiral Zethkar was talking to Dr. Kevlar, his communications officer received another message from the human ship. Sir, Captain Chen is requesting permission to contact her superiors about this territorial dispute. Admiral Zethkar felt a chill. Her superiors? Yes, sir. She wishes to speak with someone she called Admiral Webb at Wolf 359 Command. The name Wolf 359 was familiar. Admiral Zethkar quickly checked the star charts. Wolf 359 was a small red dwarf star only 7 light-years from the Sol system. According to Imperial records, it had no planets capable of supporting life. Has there been any Imperial activity in the Wolf 359 system? His navigation officer checked the records. No, sir. The system was surveyed 40 years ago. Nothing but asteroid fields and gas clouds. No strategic value. Captain Chen's voice came over the communication system again. Admiral Zethkar, I have been authorized to invite you and a small diplomatic party to accompany me to Wolf 359 for proper first contact protocols. Admiral Webb feels that this situation requires formal discussion between our governments. Admiral Zethkar was trapped. He could not refuse without appearing weak or hostile. But agreeing meant entering an unknown system where humans apparently had some kind of base. If their shipbuilding capabilities were this advanced, what kind of defensive installations might they have built? Captain Chen, before we agree to anything, I need to understand how humanity achieved this level of technology so quickly. I am not sure what you mean by quickly, Admiral. Human civilization has been developing steadily for thousands of years. We achieved interstellar flight about 200 years ago. The colonization of nearby star systems took several decades to establish. Our current technology is the result of normal scientific progress. Admiral Zethkar realized that Captain Chen genuinely believed what she was saying. Either she was lying perfectly, or there was a massive gap between Imperial records and reality. Captain, our records show that humans were primitive agriculturalists as recently as 50 years ago. Captain Chen looked confused. That is very strange, Admiral. 50 years ago, humanity was already operating, mining colonies in the asteroid belt and had established the first permanent base on Mars. We made first contact with the Centauri Republic 60 years ago. The words hit Admiral Zethkar like a physical blow. Centauri Republic? Humans had made contact with other species 60 years ago. The Empire had no record of any civilization in the Centauri system. What is the Centauri Republic? They are our closest allies, Admiral. A peaceful species that helped us develop faster than light travel. They have been part of the local trading network for over a century. Admiral Zethkar felt reality crumbling around him. The Empire had surveyed the Centauri system repeatedly. There had never been any signs of intelligent life, let alone an advanced civilization. Captain Chen, I accept your invitation to visit Wolf 359, but I must inform you that this entire situation is very concerning to the Imperial government. I understand your concern, Admiral. Perhaps we can resolve these discrepancies when you meet with Admiral Webb. He has much more experience with interstellar diplomacy than I do. After ending the communication, Admiral Zethkar sat in stunned silence. Everything he thought he knew about this region of space was wrong. Humans were not primitive. They had allies the Empire had never detected. They possessed technology that surpassed Imperial capabilities. The most frightening question was simple. If the Empire's information about humans was this incorrect, what else did they not know? How many other species might be operating in Imperial space without detection? How many potential threats existed that had never been discovered? Admiral Zethkar realized he was no longer dealing with a simple first contact situation. This was potentially the discovery of an entire hidden civilization that had been developing parallel to the Empire for centuries. He began to prepare for a journey that might change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The golden throne room of the Imperial Palace fell silent as Emperor Valdris reviewed Admiral Zethkar's report. The ancient ruler of the Galactic Empire had seen many impossible things in his 500 years of life. But this situation challenged everything he understood about the galaxy. Emperor Valdris was a Zephyrian, one of the oldest and most powerful species in the Empire. His people had built the foundation of galactic civilization when most other races were still learning to make tools. The idea that some unknown species could surprise the Empire was deeply disturbing. Summon the High Council immediately, the Emperor commanded, and establish a direct quantum communication link with Admiral Zethkar. Within an hour, the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in the throne room. The High Council included representatives from all major Imperial species, each one a master of warfare, science, or diplomacy. They listened in growing alarm as Admiral Zethkar repeated his report. "Your Imperial Majesty," Admiral Zethkar said through the quantum link, "I request permission to speak directly with this human captain. The situation requires your personal attention." Emperor Valdris had not spoken directly to an unknown alien in decades. Usually first contact situations were handled by lower-ranking officials. But the implications of this discovery were too significant to delegate. Establish communication with their vessel. The main display activated, showing Captain Sarah Chen standing on what appeared to be a highly advanced command bridge. Behind her, Admiral Zethkar could see dozens of human crew members working at stations that displayed technology he did not recognize. "Captain Chen," Emperor Valdris said in his most formal tone, "I am Emperor Valdris, ruler of the Galactic Empire. I understand you claim to represent something called humanity." Captain Chen bowed respectfully. "Your Imperial Majesty, it is an honor to meet you. I represent the United Earth Government and the Human Colonial Authority. We were not aware that the Galactic Empire claimed territory in this region of space." The Emperor felt a familiar anger rising. No one questioned Imperial territorial claims. Ever. "Captain, the Galactic Empire has controlled this region for over 3,000 years. Your people are newcomers to space travel. How do you justify establishing colonies in Imperial territory without permission?" Captain Chen looked genuinely confused. "Your Majesty, with all due respect, human colonies have existed in this region for over 150 years. We have signed treaties with local species and established trade agreements throughout the sector. None of these arrangements involved the Galactic Empire." Emperor Valdris felt his advisor, General Mordak, tense beside him. The general was the Empire's master of military intelligence. If anyone should know about unauthorized settlements in Imperial space, it would be him. "Captain Chen," the Emperor continued, "you seem to misunderstand the situation. The Galactic Empire is the dominant power in this galaxy. We have records of every inhabited world, every spacefaring species, every significant civilization. There are no human colonies because humans are not capable of interstellar travel. I am afraid our information differs significantly, Your Majesty. Perhaps we can share our star charts to resolve these discrepancies. According to human records, we have colonies in 17 star systems within 50 light-years of Earth. We maintain active trade relationships with the Centauri Republic, the Vegan Confederacy, and the Tau Ceti Alliance. The throne room erupted in whispered conversations. None of these civilizations appeared in Imperial databases. Either Captain Chen was lying about everything, or the Empire's intelligence network had failed catastrophically. "Captain," Emperor Valdris said carefully, "describe these other civilizations you mentioned." The Centauri Republic consists of 3 species that achieved interstellar flight about 300 years ago. They are primarily traders and scientists, very peaceful people. The Vegan Confederacy is a military alliance of several warrior races that maintain security in this region of space. The Tau Ceti Alliance focuses on terraforming and agricultural development. General Mordak stepped forward. Your Majesty, may I ask the captain some specific questions? Emperor Valdris nodded. Captain Chen, you claim these civilizations have existed for centuries. How do you explain that Imperial surveys of those star systems showed no signs of intelligent life? Captain Chen paused as if consulting with someone off-screen. General, when were these surveys conducted? Various times over the past 200 years. Most recently, the Vega system was surveyed 15 years ago. That is very strange, General. The Vegan Confederacy capital world has a population of over 2 billion people. They operate a major starship construction facility in orbit. Their defensive satellites should be visible from several light-years away. The general's face went pale. Captain, are you suggesting that Imperial survey teams somehow missed an entire civilization? I am suggesting that there may be some kind of systematic error in Imperial intelligence gathering. Either that, or these civilizations have been deliberately hiding from Imperial detection. The second possibility sent a chill through the throne room. If multiple species had been concealing themselves from Imperial surveillance, it implied a level of coordination and technology that was deeply threatening. Emperor Valdris decided to take a different approach. Captain Chen, let us assume for a moment that your claims are accurate. What does humanity want from the Galactic Empire? We want peaceful coexistence, Your Majesty. Humanity has no territorial disputes with the Empire. We are willing to establish formal diplomatic relations and discuss trade agreements. However, we cannot acknowledge Imperial sovereignty over regions where human colonies already exist. The blunt rejection of Imperial authority was shocking. No species had ever refused to acknowledge Imperial power after seeing the Empire's military strength. Captain, you realize that you are speaking to the ruler of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy? The Imperial fleet contains millions of warships. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. Captain Chen's expression remained calm and respectful. Your Majesty, I mean no disrespect, but humanity has been aware of the Galactic Empire for decades. We have observed Imperial activities from a distance and concluded that direct contact was unnecessary, as long as our territories did not overlap. You have been watching us? Emperor Valdris asked. Of course, Your Majesty. Any responsible government monitors potentially hostile neighbors. Human intelligence services have been tracking Imperial fleet movements and territorial expansion for over 50 years. The implications hit everyone in the throne room at the same time. Humanity had not just hidden from Imperial detection, they had been actively spying on the Empire while remaining undetected themselves. Captain Chen, the Emperor said slowly, exactly how advanced is human military technology? I am not authorized to discuss military capabilities in detail, Your Majesty. However, I can tell you that the Defiance is a standard patrol vessel. The real human defense fleet is stationed at our forward operating base. Emperor Valdris felt the balance of power shifting beneath his feet. If this single ship could defeat an Imperial battle group, what could an entire human fleet accomplish? Where is this operating base? Wolf 359, Your Majesty. Admiral Webb commands the Third Fleet from there. He has authorized me to escort your diplomatic party for formal negotiations. The Emperor looked around the throne room. His advisors were clearly shaken by these revelations. The discovery of an unknown human civilization was bad enough. Learning that they possessed superior technology and had been monitoring Imperial activities was a crisis of unprecedented proportions. Very well, Captain Chen, we will accompany you to Wolf 359, but understand that this situation has serious implications for galactic security. Of course, Your Majesty. Admiral Webb is looking forward to discussing those implications with you. After the communication ended, Emperor Valdris sat in stunned silence. In one conversation, humanity had revealed that the Empire's intelligence network was worthless. Their military technology was outdated, and their territorial control was an illusion. The question now was whether humanity represented an opportunity for cooperation, or a threat that needed to be eliminated before it grew stronger. The journey to Wolf 359 became a revelation that shattered every assumption the Galactic Empire held about this region of space. Emperor Valdris traveled aboard his personal flagship, the Divine Authority, accompanied by Admiral Zethkar's battle group. Captain Chen's vessel, the Defiance, served as their escort. What they discovered along the way defied all logic and reason. Your Majesty, reported Intelligence Chief Yarthek, our sensors are detecting artificial structures throughout this entire region. Space stations, communication arrays, defensive platforms. They have been here for decades, possibly centuries. Emperor Valdris stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Dozens of previously unknown installations appeared on their screens as the human ship transmitted recognition codes that somehow made Imperial sensors work properly for the first time. "How is this possible?" the Emperor asked. "How did we miss all of this?" "The structures are using some form of selective stealth technology," Chief Yarthek explained. "They remain invisible to Imperial sensors unless you know the correct scanning frequencies. Captain Chen provided us with the technical specifications." Admiral Zethkar joined the conversation from his flagship. "Your Majesty, the implications are staggering. These installations could hide entire fleets from Imperial detection. If humanity wanted to launch a surprise attack, we would never see them coming." Through the main viewport, Emperor Valdris could see massive orbital habitats that had been completely invisible just hours before. Each structure was larger than most Imperial space stations and showed signs of advanced construction techniques. "Captain Chen," the Emperor said over the communication link, "how long have these installations been operating?" "The oldest structures were built about 120 years ago, Your Majesty. Most of the current facilities are less than 50 years old. We rebuilt extensively after the Vegan War." "The Vegan War?" Admiral Zethkar asked. "A territorial dispute with the Vegan Confederacy about 40 years ago. It lasted 3 years and resulted in significant changes to local power structures. The peace treaty established most of the current territorial boundaries in this region." Emperor Valdris felt his understanding of galactic history crumbling. A major war had been fought in what he considered Imperial space, and the Empire had known nothing about it. "Captain, how many casualties resulted from this war?" "Approximately 2 million military personnel from all sides combined. Several worlds were devastated. The reconstruction took nearly a decade. The numbers were staggering. 2 million deaths in a war the Empire had never detected. Worlds devastated and rebuilt without Imperial knowledge. It suggested a level of activity that made Imperial intelligence look completely incompetent. "Your Majesty," Chief Yarthek said quietly, "we are receiving updates to our navigation database. Captain Chen is transmitting current star charts for this region." The updated charts appeared on the main display, and Emperor Valdris felt his breath catch. Hundreds of inhabited worlds, trade routes, defensive installations, and territorial boundaries covered the screen. It was like looking at a completely different galaxy. "This cannot be accurate," Admiral Zethkar protested. "We have detailed surveys of every system shown here." "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice responded over the communication system, "your surveys may have been conducted when these worlds were uninhabited. Colonization efforts in this region have been very active over the past century." "Captain," Emperor Valdris interrupted, "you keep mentioning timescales that conflict with our records. Our information indicates that your species achieved spaceflight only recently." "Your Majesty, I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding. Humanity has been spacefaring for over 2 centuries. We established our first interstellar colony 190 years ago. Earth itself has been industrialized for over 300 years. Chief Yarthek pulled up the original Imperial survey data on humanity. The information clearly showed primitive agricultural societies with no signs of advanced technology. Captain Chen, I am looking at Imperial survey data that contradicts everything you are telling us. According to our records, humans were barely capable of metalworking 50 years ago." Captain Chen paused, apparently consulting with her crew. "Your Majesty, may I suggest a possibility that might explain these discrepancies?" "Continue. What if your survey teams were observing human populations that had deliberately returned to primitive lifestyles? Some of our colonies were established specifically to preserve pre-industrial human culture. These worlds maintain populations that live exactly as humans did thousands of years ago." The suggestion hit Emperor Valdris like a physical blow. The Empire had been surveying deliberately primitive human settlements while the real human civilization expanded through space, undetected. "Are you telling us that your species has been deliberately deceiving Imperial survey teams?" "Not deceiving, Your Majesty. Simply not advertising our presence. When unknown alien vessels appeared in human space, we made the reasonable decision to avoid contact until we understood their intentions." Admiral Zethkar's voice carried barely controlled anger. "Captain, the Galactic Empire has peaceful intentions toward all species. Admiral, with respect, your empire has conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved dozens of species. From humanity's perspective, avoiding Imperial attention seemed like the safest policy. The accusation of slavery stung because it was accurate. The Empire had indeed conquered and subjugated many species over the centuries. The idea that humanity had been watching imperial expansion and preparing defenses was terrifying. "Your Majesty," Chief Yarthek reported, "we are approaching the Wolf 359 system. Long-range sensors are detecting massive artificial structures. The main display activated, showing the Wolf 359 system in detail. What Emperor Valdris saw made him question his own sanity. The system contained more artificial structures than the Imperial homeworld. Orbital habitats housed millions of people. Industrial complexes processed materials on a scale that rivaled entire Imperial sectors. And everywhere he saw warships. "Captain Chen," Emperor Valdris said weakly, "how many people live in this system?" "Wolf 359 base has a permanent population of about 12 million, Your Majesty. During peak industrial periods, the population can reach 20 million. 20 million people in a system the Empire considered empty. The scale of Imperial intelligence failure was beyond imagination. And the military installations? Wolf 359 serves as the forward headquarters for human defense fleet operations in this region. Admiral Webb commands approximately 400 vessels from here. 400 warships. If they were all comparable to the Defiance, they represented more firepower than most Imperial sectors could deploy. "Captain," Emperor Valdris asked the question that terrified him most. "How many systems like this does humanity control?" "Wolf 359 is one of our smaller installations, Your Majesty. The main fleet bases are located closer to Earth and are significantly larger." Emperor Valdris realized that he was not just discovering a hidden human civilization. He was learning that humanity had built a shadow empire that paralleled Imperial space without detection. They possessed superior technology, extensive territorial holdings, and military forces that could potentially challenge Imperial dominance. The most frightening realization was that if humanity could hide all of this from Imperial intelligence, other species might be doing the same thing. The Empire might not be the dominant galactic power at all. As they approached Wolf 359 base, Emperor Valdris prepared for a meeting that would determine whether humanity represented the future of galactic civilization or the beginning of the Empire's decline. Admiral Marcus Webb stood waiting in the reception bay of Wolf 359 base as Emperor Valdris and his diplomatic party arrived. The human commander was older than Captain Chen, with gray hair and eyes that showed the experience of decades in military command. He wore a simple uniform that somehow managed to convey more authority than the elaborate robes of Imperial nobility. Emperor Valdris stepped off his shuttle and found himself in a docking bay that was larger than most Imperial space stations. The technology surrounding him was clearly more advanced than anything the Empire possessed, yet it was presented with casual efficiency rather than impressive display. "Your Imperial Majesty," Admiral Webb said with a respectful bow, "welcome to Wolf 359 base. I apologize for the confusion that brought us together, but I hope we can use this opportunity to establish positive relations between our civilizations." The apology was diplomatically perfect and utterly infuriating. Admiral Webb spoke as if the Empire had made an innocent mistake, rather than discovering a massive failure in Imperial intelligence. "Admiral Webb," Emperor Valdris replied carefully, "I confess that this situation has raised many questions about humanity's activities in this region of space." "I understand completely, Your Majesty. Please allow me to show you our facilities and perhaps we can clarify some of the apparent discrepancies in our information." The tour that followed was a masterclass in diplomatic shock tactics. Admiral Webb led the Imperial delegation through sections of the base that demonstrated human capabilities without directly threatening Imperial pride. The industrial complexes showed manufacturing techniques that could produce starships in weeks rather than years. The research laboratories displayed technologies that made Imperial science look primitive. The residential areas housed a population that enjoyed living standards higher than most Imperial nobility. "Admiral Webb," Emperor Valdris said during their walk through the command center, "I must ask directly, how long has humanity been aware of the Galactic Empire?" "We first detected Imperial activities about 70 years ago, Your Majesty. A human deep space exploration vessel observed Imperial ships conducting surveys near our territory. Since then, we have maintained monitoring stations to track Imperial movements in this region." Admiral Zethkar, who had remained silent during most of the tour, finally spoke. You have been spying on the Empire for 70 years? We prefer to call it intelligence gathering, Admiral. When we encountered evidence of a large, aggressive empire expanding toward human space, we felt it was prudent to learn as much as possible about your capabilities and intentions. And what did you conclude? Emperor Valdris asked. Admiral Webb paused at a large display showing star charts that covered a significant portion of the galaxy. We concluded that the Galactic Empire is indeed powerful, but perhaps not as all-knowing as it believes itself to be. Your surveys of this region were incomplete. Your intelligence network had significant gaps. Most importantly, your expansion pattern suggested that eventual contact with humanity was inevitable. The star charts on the display were unlike anything in Imperial databases. They showed territorial boundaries, trade routes, military installations, and diplomatic relationships for dozens of species that the Empire had never encountered. Admiral, Emperor Valdris said slowly, how many spacefaring civilizations exist in this region that the Empire has never contacted? In this local sector, approximately 37 species have achieved interstellar flight. Most prefer to avoid Imperial attention, so they have developed various methods of concealment. 37 species. The Empire had identified only 8 spacefaring races in this entire region of space. The scope of Imperial ignorance was staggering. Admiral Webb, Chief Yarthek interrupted, are you suggesting that these species have been deliberately hiding from Imperial detection? Not just hiding, Chief. Actively monitoring Imperial activities and coordinating their concealment efforts. When your survey ships appear, word spreads quickly through our communication networks. Planets can temporarily shut down their technological signatures. Space stations can activate stealth systems. Entire civilizations can effectively vanish from Imperial sensors. Emperor Valdris felt the foundations of Imperial power crumbling beneath his feet. The Empire's expansion had not been conquest but exploration of an elaborate illusion. Dozens of species had been watching Imperial activities while remaining hidden themselves. Admiral Webb, what do these civilizations want? Most simply want to be left alone, Your Majesty. They have observed Imperial conquest policies and decided that contact would be more dangerous than concealment. However, recent Imperial expansion patterns suggest that avoiding contact may no longer be possible. Admiral Webb led them to a conference room where detailed, holographic displays showed Imperial fleet movements over the past 50 years. The analysis was remarkably accurate and deeply unsettling. Your expansion into this region will inevitably encounter established colonies and territorial claims, Admiral Webb explained. We can either resolve these conflicts through negotiation, or we can allow them to escalate into military confrontations. You are threatening the Empire? Admiral Zethkar asked. Not at all, Admiral. I am simply pointing out that the Empire appears to be expanding into occupied territory without realizing it. Sooner or later that will cause problems. Emperor Valdris studied the holographic displays. Imperial expansion plans would indeed result in contact with human colonies within the next decade. If humanity possessed military technology superior to Imperial capabilities, those encounters could be disastrous. Admiral Webb, what are you proposing? A mutual defense agreement, Your Majesty. Humanity and our allies are willing to share certain technologies with the Empire in exchange for formal recognition of existing territorial boundaries and a commitment to peaceful coexistence. The offer was stunning in its implications. Humanity was not just revealing superior technology, they were offering to share it. But the price was acknowledgement that the Empire was not the sole galactic power. What technologies are you willing to share? Admiral Webb activated another display showing defensive systems that could protect entire star systems from attack. Manufacturing techniques that could revolutionize Imperial industry. Communication systems that operated faster than any Imperial technology. These technologies would give the Empire significant advantages over hostile species in other regions of the galaxy, Admiral Webb explained. However, they come with the understanding that this region of space is no longer available for Imperial conquest. Emperor Valdris realized he was facing the most important decision in Imperial history. He could accept humanity's offer and gain access to revolutionary technology, while acknowledging limits to Imperial expansion. Or he could reject the agreement and risk a war against opponents whose full capabilities remained unknown. Admiral Webb, you mentioned that humanity has allies in this region. How many species would support you in a conflict with the Empire? The current mutual defense network includes 23 spacefaring species, Your Majesty. Their combined military capabilities are significant. The number hit Emperor Valdris like a physical blow. 23 species allied with humanity against potential Imperial aggression. Even if their individual capabilities were limited, their combined forces could present a serious challenge to Imperial expansion. Admiral, may I ask what humanity's ultimate goals are? We want to continue developing peacefully while maintaining security for human colonies and allied species. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our current holdings. We simply want to ensure that our civilization can continue to grow without external interference. Emperor Valdris looked around the conference room at his advisors. They were clearly overwhelmed by the revelations of human capabilities and the extent of their intelligence failures. Admiral Webb, I need time to consider your proposal. Of course, Your Majesty. However, I should mention that Imperial fleet movements suggest you are planning a major expansion into this region within the next few years. If we are going to reach an agreement, it should probably happen before those plans proceed too far. The subtle pressure was expertly applied. Emperor Valdris realized that humanity had been preparing for this conversation for decades. They knew about Imperial expansion plans and had positioned themselves to offer either cooperation or resistance. As the meeting ended, Emperor Valdris faced the reality that the Galactic Empire was no longer the dominant force in the galaxy. Humanity and their allies had built a shadow civilization that was potentially more powerful than the Empire itself. The choice was simple: acknowledge this new reality and seek cooperation, or attempt to maintain Imperial dominance and risk a war that might destroy both civilizations. Looking at Admiral Webb's confident expression, Emperor Valdris suspected that humanity had been preparing for either possibility for a very long time.